Sheila, would you reread the motion, please?
Yes. Barbara, I assume you want to still include school buildings, to form a 5-member bond committee to encompass police and fire department, school building capital planning. That's the complete.
And that was seconded by Art?
I didn't hear a second.
Art. Okay, all in favor? Selectman Buckner, Melcher, Wilks, Welcome, opposed. Selectman Kapitianka. Motion passes.
Just approved tonight the largest single capitalization of the town of Winchester since the flood of '55. The total number is $41,875,000 in appropriations. Total $32 million of it goes straight into the school system. That's a horrific number to look at, but it's only modified by a refund rate of 54.4%, or $22,880,000, leaving a total debt package of the town of Winchester of $18,995,000. You say to yourself, Villa, you have lost your mind.
Hey everybody, this is Brian O'Haron. You're going to see $57 million up there behind me pretty much for the whole program tonight. There are some exceptions, and that's because we're going to be talking about the Indocrats' big bond issue that cost them the last election, in my opinion. So for the comments tonight, you will be witnessing clips of the 2005-2006 Indocrat de facto majority on the Board of Selectmen and the 2 Republican selectmen discussing the last administration's concoction of about $57 million bond package that included about $13 million in interest. I will introduce the clips briefly, and they speak volumes. So please pay attention, and by the end of the hour you'll have a pretty good idea what happened here. It appears that the Indocrats' tenacity and poor business judgment miscalculated the resolve of the taxpayers. And that may have been the main cause of their disastrous loss in the next election. All of the Winchester Party members lost. 2 of the Democrats won. The Indocrats were composed of the Democrats and the Winchester Party, Independent Party predecessors there. My guests tonight are a picture of SpongeBob SquarePants and the number 57 million, the approximate amount of the proposed bond package, and perhaps 13 million, the approximate amount of the interest included in the $57 million proposed bond package. But first, the agenda and the time remaining to the next election. The agenda tonight, time remaining till the November election, November 3rd, 2009. Democratic selectman and liaison to the Rec Board, Michael Renzullo's marijuana suggestions to the police chief at a recent Board of Selectmen meeting. The 3 remaining supporting Democratic candidates, I'll be crossing them off my poster tonight at the end of the program, or maybe even before that. And then we will talk almost the whole program about the big bond issue reprise. We must be careful here as taxpayers, because they don't give up easy, these Indocrats, and we could very well see after they're elected, they won't talk much about it before they're elected, but after they're elected, we could very well see the big bond package resurface and waste a lot of time and taxpayers' money. There are rumors in the community that this is part of their intention once elected. So if I were you, I wouldn't vote for them. Election day, November 3rd, 2009. Days to the election, 27. Weeks to the election, 4. Months to the election, three quarters of a month or so. It would take a day or two. The final weekly program, Planning for Success, will be on Wednesday, October 28th, 2009. $57 million was that roughly the big bond package, although nobody ever really knew for sure because the plan was so incomplete. 57 million roughly. And then the interest, roughly about $13 million if things went as proposed. Now, once the package was put out, then everybody started looking at it. Things went off the rails pretty quickly, but we'll deal with that later. Now I'm going to talk a bit about Lisa Smith. I'm going to give you again the website for the Torrington Register, www.torringtonregister.com. In there you can search all the articles over the last 2 to 4 years. I don't know exactly how far back they go. By putting in the name, Lisa Smith, and you can read all letters and articles that they have in their database that reference her. Now remember, I told you once before, you can do that for any person. You can do it for me, you can do it for you, you can do it for this. But I'm recommending tonight you do it for Lisa Smith. I've read most of the letters in there and the comments and articles and that. I don't concentrate too much on the blog type non-signed stuff, but I've read them, and in my opinion, they are a smart alecky, taunting, lack of business experience, tone, and feel that may represent the opinions of the Indocrats. Read the unsigned comments where appended and their supporters. You may notice some of these characteristics in a clip to be played later in the program. Did she construct all of the letters and comments, or was it a group effort? Are they using her? Or is she just a pawn in the game? Now we will show the first clip, which is Democrat Representative on the Board of Selectmen, Michael Renzullo, once again discussing the marijuana issue at a recent Board of Selectmen meeting.
I'm the liaison to the rec board. Yeah, I just wanted to remind the public, I'm the liaison to the rec board. Yeah, I just wanted to remind the public, I'm the liaison to the rec board. You mentioned a couple times when you were going through drug investigations.
Yeah.
What kind of drug investigations exactly? I mean, are we talking about heroin or are we talking about marijuana?
No, we're talking about heroin and crack.
Okay.
Which both are a problem for us.
Right, because I would just say right off, I mean, our state legislature overwhelmingly, I think there was maybe 13 legislators that voted not to decriminalize marijuana. Massachusetts decriminalized marijuana. I think that the only reason it's not currently decriminalized is because our governor vetoed it. And personally, I lived in Colorado for 10 years. The citation out there is like, I think it's like a $50 ticket. I just hope we're not wasting any money on that.
No, the last drug operation that we had, and I can put together the cases that we had, I think we made 10 arrests on it. We're all for heroin and crack.
Right.
And,
which is, you know, obviously you
we
would...
did those investigations on a shoestring. I went to Keith, explained to him we didn't have the money for overtime. My officers agreed to do it for compensatory time. We went out, put investigations together. We shut down some places that were right near the church that were dealing crack. There's people there that are still facing jail time. There was another place down on Park Place, a crack house that we shut down. There was a person that was selling Vicodin, getting prescriptions from this doctor in Waterbury and then selling the Vicodin up at Island Way, and he was arrested. So we were productive with the limited amount that we had, and I need to continue to do that because you know you can't back off and stop your enforcement efforts. But we don't have the overtime money to do do it. And I can't keep asking my officers to do it for compensatory time, because eventually we pay overtime for that. So what I need is some assistance, and the federal government's going to give us that in the way of about $10,000 in cash.
No, I was just curious because obviously there's a distinction between, you know,
It's not marijuana.
like that, you know, right? Which
Our problems run a lot deeper than that.
Dave?
So I guess this is a little off the subject here, but I guess I just want to be clear. You're suggesting that the PD not bother to enforce the existing marijuana laws in the state of Connecticut because you believe it should be legalized?
I think that just we're talking about overtime, and that as it was listed down here as far as investigations, contractual agreements, that was one of the things that he had listed. He cited not continuing the DARE program. You know, I think there's obviously a distinction between things like heroin and cocaine and marijuana. That's what I'm saying.
So you're saying he shouldn't spend much time worrying about marijuana?
I certainly wouldn't want a costly investigation to go and be wasting taxpayer dollars on that, no.
Wasting taxpayer dollars on drug violations. Okay, I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind the public, I'm the liaison to the rec board. Yeah, I just wanted to remind the public, I'm the liaison to the rec board. Yeah, I just wanted to remind the public, I'm the liaison to the rec board.
I don't know if this is true, and it's just a rumor I heard that he also might be a substitute teacher up at Region 7. So my view is that he ran last time, wasted a lot of time running against Rohrback, and didn't pay attention to our town business. And he wants to do that again next year. And he's a big spender, and he doesn't really in favor of the bond issue. He's in favor of the bond issue, but not really in favor of the developments getting in here, and doesn't do anything to help us. So he will be crossed off my list tonight, and I hope you cross him off of yours as well. The next clip will be Indocrat selectman. Now, this selectman has been a member of 3 parties in 2 or 3 years, Independent Party, Winchester Party, and now the Democratic Party, and he's in favor of the bond package, and he expresses that comment at the Indocrat-dominated Board of Selectmen meeting back in '07. So here we go.
Be voting for the bond package. So I will be voting for the bond package. So I will be voting for the bond package.
Hi, me again, Lisa Smith. There were 4 people up for reappointment for the rec board, and I was the only one who didn't get reappointed. I would just like to give the opportunity to those who didn't vote to reappoint me a chance to tell me why, other than time for a change. Since I'm here and, you know, thought maybe it's a good time, let me know.
Well, for myself personally, I think there's way too many people on the Board of Recreation. And I think I've attended some of the meetings, and I just think that I know it says a maximum, and I know
Yeah.
they're right at the maximum, so I just think through attrition that, you know, that was the only thing that was on my mind.
So out of the 4, did you just draw straws and my name was the one who got the short straw, or how did you come to me being the one? I'm just curious.
I wouldn't say we drew straws, no. I mean,
Guys, anyone else?
Well, in addition to what Kenny was just saying, in fact, I think the commission ought to be down to about 9 people. But I know you had a pretty strong position in regards to the rec director, whether it should be full-time or part-time.
Absolutely.
And I absolutely adamantly believe that it should be a full-time position, and I know you disagree with that. So
I do.
That was a big part of my rationale.
So if we disagree, then we shouldn't be on boards. As long as everybody has the same ideas, then you should be on a board. But if
No,
we
absolutely
disagree,
not. But when you're in a position to make appointments, you appoint people that you believe are going to do what you think is in the best interest of the community.
Yep.
That's what appointments are all about.
Jeff?
Pretty much what, on both counts. I agree. I think the recreation director should be a full-time position. It's a professional position, it should be full-time. And I also think a 13-member commission is way too big. Numerous studies have shown that smaller groups get more work done faster.
Next.
I agree with all that, so.
Okay, thanks.
Kind of speaks for itself. I've been talking about all those principles over 2 years, and having smaller commissions, and that we should try to balance the commissions, and everybody knows all that now, and except it seems Lisa. Now, Art Melcher, he's a real nice guy. I got no problem with Art Melcher. When he was in the Independent Party 3 parties ago, he voted. When I went to his meeting with the Green Papers, he voted in favor of the development. But since then, he's been in 2 parties that are against the development, so, and trying to slow it down. So I say he's a nice guy. He does a good job on a lot of the commissions he's on. He's been on some of them for 15 or 20 years. He does a great job with the vets. But I don't think he's up to being a selectman. He ran last time and lost. Didn't do such a good job the first time he was in there. So I wouldn't vote for him. We'll be crossing him off the list tonight. I won't vote for him. I know a lot of people who won't, and I don't think you should either. That's up to you. You know Art better than I do around this town, so make your own decision. Now, as far as Lisa is concerned, Lisa is controversial in town. Everybody I talk to, whether they be at St. Anthony School, Region 7, Gilbert, in the town, in the rec department, everybody I talk to has a story one way or another. I'm not going to repeat any of those. You can go talk to all those people yourself. But I think she does. Doesn't have much business experience. She's pretty good in the sports area when she doesn't get into controversies. But one of the biggest problems is she's always been against having a full-time rec director. The Republicans and most of the community would like to have a full-time rec director if they could afford it, and they're going to strive towards that. So if I were you, I wouldn't vote for Lisa Smith. I will not vote for Lisa Smith for many reasons. I suggest you look at it. I'll talk to people around town about Lisa before you vote, and I'd rather vote for SpongeBob SquarePants than vote for Lisa Smith. Okay, the next clip will be first we want to put up the Democratic signs there. If we can put up the first one, that's who's on their sign. Let's put up the next one. That's who I've crossed off, all 5, because the Democratic Party, besides the frailties of each of the individuals, are against getting the big development in, the quantitative leap in the revenue that we need so bad, and we will get eventually. And they're in favor of reintroducing, again, although they haven't said it publicly, they'll probably be in favor of reintroducing the $57 million bond package. It'll probably be in a little bit of a little different. If I get to the epilogue tonight, I'll tell you where we stand, and then you can make up your mind from there. The next clip is ex-Indocrat selectman and ad hoc committee chairman David C. Villa introducing the bond package committee members, who are all Indocrats, 3 of which are from the east side of Highland Lake, where they are against the development. Not everybody on the east side, but many. And he is stating the contents of the proposed bond package at the Indocrat-dominated selectmen meeting that was back in July 6th of 2007. Here we go.
Fellow commissioners Dick Labick, Steve Molinelli, Art Melcher, and Jack Wynn. Pearson School. It fixes Bachelor School. It fixes Hinsdale School. It builds a new police station. It builds 2 new fire stations. It replaces 4 pieces of apparatus. It moves the Board of Education into the old firehouse to get us out of rented property. It creates a community center, youth center for the town, in the upper floors of the old Elm Street station. It also provides for remediation here in this building for the reoccupation of 4,000 square feet of the front end when the police station is vacated. It provides for the installation of generation at pump stations, modification of a particular roadway that's a known deadly hazard on Wakefield Boulevard. It provides for the replacement of essential equipment over a 7-year period for, not including the fire department, of turnout gear, Scott air packs, consumable equipment, mobile equipment.
Okay, I will now introduce Selectman Russell Dutton Buckner back at the July 6, 2007 meeting, asking David C. Villa, what does it mean to me as a taxpayer? The amount of interest was never mentioned during this meeting or the one that I will show later in the program.
Joe, I'm sitting in the audience. What's it going to cost me each year? What does it mean to me as a taxpayer?
Well, what it can mean, to answer your question, is that we know that there's certain bonding that's going to retire in the next fiscal year, depending on how quickly this money is drawn down, and there are a number of variables, and I don't presume to speak like a bond counsel or a financial advisor. If it, in round numbers, to fund this entire project is $1,600,000 a year, minus the retired bond, the 1988 educational bonding, which amounts to almost $750,000, and after we have the statistical reevaluation, it's likely that the value of a mill will become greater than what it is. The mill is $588,000. With statistical reval, it suggested that a mill might be worth $610,000 to $625,000. So with the retired money, and this was preeminent in our thoughts in terms of the size, scope, and length of this thing, we wanted to keep it under 2 mills net.
Well, the revaluation went up 40%, and it wasn't 610 to 625 for the mill. It was 823,000, and of course we had a lot happen there. Once that package got out and had a lot of people looking at it, it was very interesting to see the numbers. The next clip will be the Indocrat-dominated Board of Selectmen motioning to adopt the ad hoc committee recommendations and send to the Planning and Zoning Commission for consideration and adopt as the capital plan for the town. Listen to Selectman Perez politically posturing during these clips.
The town of Winchester, the projects described in Section 2 of the reporting of the Ad Hoc Bond Commission for a report pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 824, revision of 1958, as amended. Board of Selectmen, Town of Winchester further refers the entire reportings of the Ad Hoc Bond Commission of 7/16/07 and the entire reporting of the Fire Police Capital Planning Commission to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a report pursuant to the Connecticut General Statutes 824, revision of 1958, as amended.
Is there a second?
The next clip is the Indocrat-dominated Board of Selectmen amending the motion to add the capital plan portion.
Acceptable to our, the reporting of the Ad Hoc Bond Commission is accepted by the Board of Selectmen and is adopted as the capital plan of the town of Winchester.
And now the next clip. The board votes on the motion. The Republicans and independent Russell Buckner vote no.
Right.
It's here in the body of your statement to
Right.
send it to P&Z.
Okay.
To send those to P&Z. I simply added on the first part about accepting the commission report and adopting it as the capital plan for the town of Winchester.
Okay, I had to do a little bit of editing there because in those meetings during that whole administration, there was hours and hours of arguing over Robert's Rules of Order. This is one of the areas where that happened as well. So I think the next clip, I hope, is the vote. If not, I'll explain it after the clip.
I'm opposed. Selectmen Capabianca, Case, and Buckner. Motion passed.
But after the volume there, Dave, that was gone. Anyway, they did vote it. They voted yes on the motion with Republicans and independents voting no. For some reason in here I lost the sound. I don't know why. The next clip is the Planning and Zoning. At the end of that meeting, July 6, 2007, Planning and Zoning Chairman stating his views on the ad hoc bond committee proposal during public comment at the Indocrat-dominated Board of Selectmen meeting. He's for it.
59 Lakeview Road. I'd like to add to your comments, Madam Mayor. As a taxpayer, to see this kind of leadership where we have a committee that's a commission that's been put together to look at very, very important issues before us in our community, and to see this kind of activity and this kind of reporting and the dedication of the ad hoc committee, I've got to praise you for your leadership in putting it together, and Dave Villa and his entire commission. From my point, of view as just a taxpayer, I think it's extremely important and very far-reaching what we've got to be looking forward to. And I think that it's a very uncomfortable thing to look at what's going to be for increase in taxes and so forth. But I think Dave did a very good job of explaining that we really have had savings over these years of not spending money on a lot of these maintenance items and issues that have ballooned into something that we're seeing today. But a lot of it is also new regulations, things that we've learned, and what the state agencies have learned, and how we should improve our environments for the kids, for the needs for our police department, our fire safety, and so forth, and the ambulance. We need to be looking at this if we're going to be a community that obviously a lot of people are looking at and coming in our direction. We've got a wonderful area here, and we're from the planning and zoning. We're involved right now. As you know, our plan of conservation development is way overdue. We're very active in trying to pursue this and move this along, and I thank you again. You've moved funds into the area that we can provide some planning documents, some mapping, and so forth. It's extremely important. It hasn't been done that I know of in our history. And again, this kind of leadership is what we need, and I thank you. And it's a thankless job to be sitting there as you do, but for everybody that does their homework and puts this kind of information together, I applaud you. Thank you.
Okay, on the next clip, that was pretty self-explanatory, that clip. That's another Democrat who's firmly in the camp of the big bond issue, and we may see more of that if the Democrats win the majority in the election, which I don't think they're going to do. The next one is a very astute town citizen, Brian Horvath, at the same meeting, July 6, 2007, stating his views on the bond proposal during the public comment at the Democrat-dominated Board of Selectmen meeting. He seems much more practical.
My name is Brian Horvath from 5 Elm Street. My family and I just moved into the area, into Winsted. This is my first time coming to a meeting like this. And I've been listening to everything that's been going on. I commend all of you for the work that you're about to do, and if you're getting ready to commence on doing. But I would like to make a suggestion to you, is set up a task force of 3 or 4 people qualified to do the inspections of these buildings after the work is completed as an ongoing project, so that the buildings will stay in compliance year after year, and it won't cost you 20, 30, 40 million dollars. It'll only cost you a couple $100 just to make changes here and there.
Okay, thank you, Brian, for that. You sound like a reasonable man to me, and hope to see more of you around the town. Now we're going to switch to a November 5th, 2007 meeting, a day or two before the last election, and it's a selectman meeting. And the initial clip is the Planning and Zoning Chairman, once again, George Clausen, stating his views on the bond package proposal during public comment at the Democrat-dominated Board of Selectmen meeting. He's for it.
Briefly, you've got a large bond issue that's being discussed, and it's on the agenda tonight. I feel that a number of things have been put into a deferred maintenance in this community, and we can continue to delay and defer making judgments and decisions and so forth. And I think that you've established an ad hoc committee that did a fine job and did a very thorough report. And I think it's only fair that it move from this stage to the people, the voters of the community. And if we continue to delay, it's just going to get more expensive, and I don't think we're going to make the progress that we need to make. Thank you.
That's kind of double speak. There's a lot of double speak when Candy speaks and when the Althea Perez, speaks, and the Democrats and the Indocrats. And they often say one thing and mean another. But what this means is getting it to the voters so they can make a decision means they're in favor of it, and they want to ramrod it through here one way or the other. And that's kind of what they mean when they say those. You'll hear Althea Perez say similar things. In the next clip, Mayor Welcome motioning to send the package to a town meeting and referendum on November 5th, 2007 at the Indocrat-dominated Board of Selectmen meeting. Dave, there's a break in the tape here, and it will be continued in the next clip. So let's play the first one, and then we'll play the second one.
Appropriation and borrowing authorization for costs relating to improvements to various town school facilities, including repairs, improvements, and remediation to the Isabel M. Pearson School, to the William H. Batchelor School, and to the Mary P. Hinsdale School, and for costs relating to the financing of the project, and calling of a town meeting and referendum to act on such appropriation and borrowing authorization.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
Oh, you can change
Okay.
this so it's all on.
Let's just stop for a second so we can change the tape.
3 hours or so, and that's what happened there. We edited it out
No,
here.
I think that we've asked Doug Gillette to produce the documents based on the reports of the Public Safety Committee and the Bond Committee. Passed all the information off to him. He put that into a resolution that he's done before, and it's just a matter of these are the items that he's suggested to go on the agenda, and that will set in motion the resolution, the timeframes, and ultimately a town meeting followed by a referendum. All the information is in the packet.
Okay. Yes.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we table items 9, 10, 11, and 12 until the next selectmen's meeting.
Second.
Discussion? Yes.
I think it's an excellent idea because I believe this board won't be there. I believe that the documents, whether we look at the school side or the town side, when you look at the interest, you're paying 40% on buying equipment for the fire department that they can't buy for a couple of years. It's needed now. We've put in budgetary items that should be a part of an annual budget, not bonded, to the tune of, again, 40% based on these figures. And so I'm opposed to the whole structure of it, the excessive costs, the lack of detail, and I think it should be put off to the next Board of Selectmen.
Yes.
Move the question.
Is there a second to move the question? All in favor of moving the question? Selectman Capabianca, Case, Wilkes, it's unanimous. Okay. Read the question again, or the motion again, Sheila? Basically the table.
To table items 9, 10, 11, and 12 until the next Board of Selectmen's meeting, right, Russ?
Yeah. All in favor of the motion? Selectman Capabianca, Case, Buckner, opposed. Selectman Melcher, Perez, Wilkes, Welcome. Motion fails. Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to a resolution, resolve that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Winchester hereby adopts the resolution presented to this meeting approving the appropriation of $32,472,000 for costs relating to improvements to various town school facilities, including repairs, improvements, and remediation to the Isabel M. Pearson School to the William H. Bachelor School and to the Mary P. Hinsdale School, and for costs relating to the financing of the project and approving the authorization of bonds and notes to finance the appropriation. A copy of the resolution shall be attached to the minutes of this meeting, made a part thereof. Further resolved that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Winchester hereby approves the setting of the dates for a special town meeting and referendum to act on the appropriation and borrowing authorization approved above, as reflected in the notice of such special town meeting and referendum presented to this meeting, which notice, to the extent of its references to the aforesaid appropriation and borrowing authorization, is hereby approved. A copy of the notice shall be attached to the minutes of this meeting and made a part thereof.
Second. Discussion. Yes.
Yes, specifically, again, I'd like to point out that I think that the amount of money, the process being suggested, historically, when the Pearson School, when renovations were done, I believe the Gilbert School allowed its students to go up there. There's not a lot of details on the process. Putting these bond issues together is too big of a cost for the people, and I'm opposed to it in its current form, and for the costs incurred, and the fact that we're going to be bonding items that should be purchased.
Yes.
I'd just like to say that we've been at this process for a very, very long time. The process for putting these, putting the bonds together, the process for looking at them through the school building committee, the process of looking at the documents for the schools for a very long time. It's time for people to speak on this issue, whether you're for it or against it. I think it's time for it to go to a town meeting.
Okay. Any other discussion? Yes.
The $34 million, or $32.4 million for the schools, I mean, I really think this should be put off to the next Board of Selectmen, but my one concern is Pearson School is our main objective. That should be the first bond, period, by itself, put out, and engineering for that be taken care of. And this does them all in phases, a little bit at each school, and if we don't get Pearson School done before July of 2008, the federal government is going to have one heck of an issue. And also, there's some language in one of these bonds also that, you can delete it or add projects or delete the entirety of one or more projects if necessary or desirable to complete the remaining projects within appropriations amount. The last bond we did, we were told that whatever the town voted on is what you got done, whether it was downscaled a little bit or not. I don't agree in voting on a bond issue of such magnitude where you can delete stuff after it's been passed by the people. I think that's totally wrong and irresponsible, and I think it should be relooked at and taken care of, because if the people are going to vote on a bond, they're going to vote on a project. If things aren't done within that project, there's going to be heck to pay, because it gives the right within this bond to say, hey, we don't have the money to do that because this went over budget. That's wrong.
This board had 2 years. We had lots of issues during that period. The board before had considered this, but for the past 2 years, we were unable as a team to work together to deal specifically with the Pearson issue, just as Jay has said. Therefore, I believe we should table this, or it should be we should vote it down and give it to the next board, because they're going to need to make some tough decisions fast to deal with this in a timely manner. And having this all wrapped together may be the very thing that precludes them from being effective in dealing with the standing issue of Pearson.
Further comment?
Yeah, I agree with Jay. There's no accountability in these bonds the way the proposal is written, and I don't believe we had that discussion with our bond counsel. I think we instructed him to write the bond the way we wanted it, as opposed to getting good legal advice from him as we should, as we pay him for it. And I think we should have asked him whether this was the appropriate way to do it or not, instead of just giving it to him and saying, this is the way we want it. I think we've made some serious mistakes here, included things in this package that don't belong in a bond package. It's too much money, it's too big, there's no accountability, and there'll be no controls when we start this project. It's a bad idea. I'll be voting no.
Okay, that's the end of that clip. And now I guess we got another one here. There might have been a break in that. Let's see what comes up, and then I'll explain it later. But in that last clip, you saw the double speak from Perez, and you saw a great performance from the independent businessman who's very good, Russell Dutton Buckner, and of course from the Republicans. So let's see what's next, Dave.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken yet? Round two?
One last comment. When I see a document that says replacement of various equipment contemplated to include, and then just starts listing things, this is, to me, is just a pile of money to be spent based on whatever someone decides to spend it on. Again, it's not well documented, it's not thorough and detailed enough, and I believe it should be put off to the next board.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I think in simple terms, what Russ is saying is that a lot of the stuff in there is simply a wish list. And somebody at some point is going to be able to make the determination which of those items we buy and which ones we don't buy. And if any of these projects run over, we're still going to be on the hook for the total amount of money, and we won't get all the projects done. And there is flexibility and no accountability in there. And I'm sorry, if our bond counsel told us this was a good way to do it, I seriously suggest we get new bond counsel.
Anyone else? Yes.
Move the question.
Second.
All in favor of moving the question? 6 and 1 no. I never get a chance to have my things. Okay. All in favor of the motion? Sheila, would you just kind of condense it, just so we know? The motion. We're voting to move this resolution forward.
To move the question.
That's done. That's done. We're voting now on the motion itself, which is basically to move the resolution forward. Okay? All in favor? Selectman Melcher, Perez, Wilks, welcome. Motion passes. Moving on to item 10.
You do opposed for the record?
I'm sorry, opposed? Case Capabianca? And Buckner.
Okay, well, that's that one. Now we're going to talk about the town portion in the next clip.
And borrowing authorization for costs relating to various improvements and renovations to and acquisitions of town facilities and equipment, including improvements to the Winchester Senior Center, various police fire safety improvements, acquisition and installation of 4 diesel particulate removal systems within the Public Works facility apparatus bays, improvements to portions of Wakefield Boulevard, renovation of the 27 Elm Street Fire Station to provide a multi-purpose use facilities, and improvements at the Town Hall to house the offices of the town clerk, and for costs relating to the financing of the project and calling of a town meeting and referendum to act on such appropriation and borrowing authorization.
Yes. I'd like to make a motion on the following resolution. Resolved that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Winchester hereby adopts the resolution presented to this meeting approving an appropriation of $10,012,000 for costs relating to various improvements and renovations to and acquisitions of town facilities and equipment, including improvements to the Winchester Senior Center, various police, fire, safety, and safety improvements, acquisition and installation of 4 diesel particulate removal systems within the Public Works facility, apparatus bays, improvement to portions of Wakefield Boulevard, renovation of the 27 Elm Street Fire Station to provide a multi-purpose use facility, and improvements at the Town Hall to house the offices of the town clerk, and for costs relating to the financing of the project, and approving the authorization of bonds and notes to finance the appropriation. A copy of the resolution shall be attached to the minutes of this meeting and made a part thereof. Further resolved that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Winchester hereby approve the setting of dates for a special town meeting and referendum to act on the appropriation and borrowing authorization approved above as reflected in the notice of such special town meeting and referendum presented to this meeting, which notice, to the extent of its references to the aforesaid appropriation and borrowing authorization, is hereby approved. A copy of the notice shall be attached to the minutes of this meeting and made part thereof.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Go ahead. Okay. You were first.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. I believe Lake Winchester and Winchester Center is bound by all private property, so putting dry hydrants around there is going to be quite a task to do because we don't own any property around Lake Winchester, so it would be going after deeds and rights to get on people's property to put dry hydrants. I think West Wakefield Boulevard should be spelled out in a bond as East Wakefield Boulevard. Wakefield Boulevard is spelled out as East Wakefield Boulevard because that's the corner it's to be done. And once again, if people read on page 2 of that particular bond, I have the hardest time with to determine the scope of the particulars of the project may reduce or modify the scope of the projects, and the entirety appropriation may be spent on these projects so reduced or modified to delegate all the portions of such authority with respect to all the portions of the project, one or more building committees, to delete in the entirety one or more of the projects, if necessary or desirable, to complete the remaining projects within the appropriated amount. It's an open door. It's an open checkbook. If we don't make it with one project, we're just going to take the money and do it. It needs to be refined. It needs to be looked at more. It needs to be delineated down. It's an open checkbook. And I believe that we need to move this on to the next board because I agree a lot of these things need to get done. There's got to be a better way to do this, and I think the next board needs to spend time to do it. And I'll be voting no once again.
Yes.
Not to reiterate what Jay said or to go back into my comments about the millions of dollars in interest we're talking about here, everybody at home would like to have your roof fixed. You'd like a new car. You'd like to maybe add a room on. Maybe you'd like to go from renting to buying a house. You'd like to have extra money for kids' college. But you don't just write yourself a check for everything you want all at once and go to the bank and take out a 30-year loan for it. And I consider this totally irresponsible and something that I hope people understand should be. It's all good items, just like at home, just like the stuff you'd always want. You just don't buy it all at once. And as a town that I just heard we're economically disadvantaged, and when I look at where we stand on different economic indicators in the state, I'm just wondering who these people are that'll be paying for this over the next 25 years. And what people will think over those years as the mill rate goes up 1.6, 3.3, et cetera. So I'm totally against this in this form.
Selectman Press.
Again, I think the reason to move this forward is because this is a community discussion. This is a community discussion for the bond. There are people on both sides of the issue, and I think it's important to move it forward. As for your other comment about the money and whatnot, I've heard that the development is coming forward. There's supposedly millions of dollars in tax revenue that will be coming forward in the future. So I look forward to that. But I also, again, this is a community issue. It's been studied for the past year and a half. It's been in meetings. Members of this board have sat there, and members of this board that were not sitting there were also invited to those meetings numerous times to take part in the discussions with the school building committee, with the ad hoc committee. So I think it's time to move it forward to the community. The community will then decide if they want to go forward or if they want to have modifications made to it.
Okay. Anyone who hasn't spoken would like to speak? Okay. Round two.
Two things. Candy and I agree with you. We have been invited to the school building committees. I did go to two of them, and I was refused to speak. There was no public comment. It was just the board, period. So I did not go to any more of them because there was no public comment, and they refused me to speak. Secondly, I understand the project has been approved in pursuit of General State Statutes 824 and all the projects in the Bond Commission. This has to do with Planning and Zoning Commission. Do we have that certificate in front of us, and how does the Planning and Zoning Commission approve a bond project when they don't even know where these buildings are going or what properties they're going to be on, when it has to be in compliance with the town's plan of development? We don't even know the properties where they're going, so we don't even know if Planning and Zoning is going to approve those properties. if they've approved the bond, they've approved the bond just as it is, but it doesn't have exact information. And when you go for $34 million in the previous one and $10 million in this one, you better have darn exact information or don't go at all. And that's why I'd be voting no. And no, I wasn't asked to be on the bond committee that put this together. It was a slate of people put together that was presented to us at the Gilbert School without asking anybody else on the board if they'd be interested. Move the question.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of moving the question? Moving the question. 6 and 1 no. Me, you. Okay. Motion's been made to move forward the resolution for item 10, and it's been seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Selectman Melcher, Perez, Wilks, welcome, opposed. Selectman Capabianca, Case, Buckner. Motion passes.
Okay, now that's the end of the clips, unless we have time to play a couple more at the end, which I don't think we're going to have because I want to do an epilogue. But there you saw perfect Althea Perez, spend before you earn, and even mentioned the revenue from the development that she's not even in favor of. So that's a bit of double speak, according to George Orwell anyway. Now, of course, the independent, Russell Dutton and Buckner and Republicans are in favor of earning before you spend, like my 8th grade teacher, Barbara Klug, taught us when we were in 8th grade. This is, again, J.K. catches Althea Perez out with her facts wrong about the setting up of the committee and the attendance and stuff like that. So now, we only got about 6 or 7 minutes. So I'm going to speed through the epilogue. The $57 million or so big bond proposal killed the Indocrats' de facto majority in the last election, but their hopes for the bond haven't faded. You haven't heard the end of this big bond issue, so don't vote them in again, or you will be hearing more about it. Partly because of public distaste for the $57 million or so big bond package, the Republicans won the 5 of 7 seats in the last election, and the Indocrats became the minority, winning the remainder 2 seats. The 2 Democrats won. The Indocrats didn't win any. 0. The Republican selectmen immediately canceled the planned big bond town meeting and referendum because they believed that they were given the mandate by the people in the election to do so. They canceled the one-sided Indocrat Bond Commission and formed a new balanced school building committee to begin looking into the OCR and Hinsdale and Batchelor complaints. Despite opposition by the Indocrats, they included money in the 2008-2009 budget to enable the Pearson OCR infractions to proceed once the budget was approved. The worldwide recession then began. The Republicans kept the money in the budget for the Pearson School OCR repairs, despite the approved 0% tax increase and the worldwide recession. The Pearson OCR complaint work is nearing completion at a fraction of the expected cost. The Hinsdale and Batchelor School accessibility problems are nearing completion by the Board of Education. No bonding was utilized to complete the Pearson OCR, Hinsdale, or Batchelor work. There was money granted to us by the state. 70% of the cost, I think, if everything qualifies, and that's yet to be determined. The fact that the 4 schools, including Gilbert, are underutilized as a group was forced to the surface by the recession. The Board of Education has included money in the approved 2009-2010 budget, despite another approved 0 tax increase year, and is now working on redistricting plans in an attempt to balance the use of the town schools and reduce costs. No bonding for this type of work is anticipated. I'm not saying there won't be bonding in the future for something, but the Pearson oil tank anticipated $20,000 or so fine issue that the last administration wrestled with for many months has been resolved in the town's favor in the beginning part of this administration. The senior center doors have long ago been fixed. Volunteers were allowed to help with the Pearson, Hinsdale, and Bachelor work. They were very good, and we thank them for that. Gilbert has donated several computers to the K through 8 Media Center. The K through 8 Town of Winchester monthly budget reconciliation problem has finally been resolved. Thank you, Republicans and Town Manager, for a job well done. If time, we will now end the program with a repeat of the first two clips.
Reread the motion, please.
Yes. Barbara, I assume you want to still include school buildings, to form a 5-member bond committee to encompass police and fire department, school building capital planning. That's the complete.
And that was seconded by Art.
I didn't hear a second.
Art. Okay, all in favor? Selectman Buckner, Melcher, Wilks, Welcome, opposed. Selectman Kapitianka. Motion passes.
Just approved tonight the largest single capitalization of the town of Winchester since the flood of '55. Total number is $41,875,000 in appropriations. Total $32 million of it goes straight into the school system. That's a horrific number to look at, but it's only modified by a refund rate of 54.4%, or $22,880,000, leaving a total debt package of the town of Winchester of $18,995,000. Say to yourself, Billy, you have lost your mind.